Hey guys, hope you're having a good day. I'm gonna make this video. This is gonna piggyback off of what I was talking about in my previous video with Dan Bilzerian. So I'm just gonna cut right to the chase. Being anti-Israel is a fad going on right now. It's a popular thing. It's it's trendy. Um, with the recent onslaught of protesters going on at these universities, um, it's the in thing right now to be against Israel and to be pro-Palestine. So I'm going to go through the lies that Dan Bilzerian has said to try to send a distorted message about the not only the conflict going on since October 7th, but also his general message altogether. So he says that the media is, was encouraging Black Lives Matter protesters, but that they're, denigrating the pro-Palestine protesters. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Maybe CNN was pro Black Lives Matter, but Fox News was, which is one of the major media outlets, was extremely anti Black Lives Matter, and rightfully so. So not all media. There was never a unanimous. I mean, maybe besides the left, but there were plenty of major media outlets that were against Black Lives Matter. So that's one lie. Then the lie that that Israel knew about October 7th and allowed it to happen is a land grab. Perhaps they did know about it. That part is plausible, but for a land grab, I think that's there's really no way to know that. That's an undiscernible fact. That's a stretch at best, and I think a claim that has really no evidence that's just something that he's trying to, it conforms to his bias against Israel. He says that it's a genocide over there. Clearly not. Is it a war? Have innocent people died? That's what happens in war. Um, the Gaza Strip, the population is 2.2 million, and Israel's killed 40,000 people. That's hardly a genocide. That's a lot of people, sure. It's not good. There have been, so-called innocent people that have died. There have. That's not a genocide. Genocide is the deliberate destruction, the eradication of an entire race. That's not even 2% of their population. So that's a gross exaggeration at best. But I really think it's an out and out lie. Then he says that they knew that there were no weapons of mass destruction. Well, how could they have known that? The true people that knew that there was no weapons of mass destruction was us in the Bush administration, and Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney, who directly benefited from us going to war against Iraq. And yeah, there was Scooter Libby and Paul Wolfowitz. There were certain Jews that were in the administration that wanted it to happen, but to say the Jews knew about it, Israel knew about it, I think that falls into something that again can't really be proven, and is going to sound really good to somebody that wants to believe that it's the Jews controlling the world type of a thing, and the duplicitous Jew, canard that a lot of people like to talk about. He then says that JFK wanted to label AIPAC as a foreign entity, and then shortly after, that's why he was killed. Again, totally can't prove that. Totally unsubstantiated. Is it possible? Sure. There was a lot of people that wanted JFK dead. The Russians wanted him dead after what happened with Cuba. The mafia wanted him dead. He came down very hard against organized crime. He also wanted to go back on the gold standard. So, I mean, look, there were a lot of people that wanted him dead. To say, and this is the problem here. Mental slothiness rigidifies passions into convictions. Okay? It's one thing to speculate that might have happened, but the conviction that Dan talks through, as if that is an ironclad fact, shows to me that intellectually he's very weak. He doesn't have a good mind. He's not a truth seeker. He has a bias against Israel. Why, I don't know. I think being an Armenian may have something to do with it. Again, in my previous video, Israel is arming their biggest enemy, which is Azerbaijan. So I can understand him having some enmity against Israel for that. But the vitriol and the certainty that he talks with, as though his analysis is ironclad, that it cannot be penetrated, that he knows he's right. It shows he's not very bright. He's not a smart guy. And again, people are not that bright. People like things that are easily digestible and entertaining. And so what ends up happening is, because what he's saying is easily digestible and it's so audacious and shocking, people think he's a hero, because most people are stupid. They don't really train their brains in how to think properly. And so they believe, like they fall victim to believing that the certainty that someone speaks with is equivalent to the amount of truth that they're saying. Or said a different way, they believe that the more certain someone is, the more confident, the stronger their conviction is, because it has an aura of strength to it, that therefore it must be true, it must be right. Trump does this too. A lot of people do this. And it's not equivalent. Like, you have to evaluate the substance of what is being said in a vacuum, not based on who said it, not based on how somebody said it, not based on the level of conviction and confidence. But most people aren't very intelligent. They have weak minds. They're lazy. They need things to be spoon-fed to them, and that's what Dan's doing. And he's not courageous. I mean, look, Andrew Tate's criticized Israel. Candace Owens has criticized Israel. I mean, Kyrie Irving has criticized the Jews. Kanye West has criticized the Jews. I mean, come on, like Mel Gibson, like hating Jews is cool today. And we're going to get into why that is. I'm going to make a video about why the Gentile, and when I say Gentile, the Christian and the Muslim, or people from Christian and Muslim backgrounds, I'll say, a level of piety or a level of religiosity between these two groups who do hate Jews can vary. But we'll talk about really why people hate Jews. And in a whole nother video, I'm gonna make a video about that. But to think that Dan is somehow a hero or somehow some warrior for the truth, like he's just Dan Bilzerian is he's a self-serving person, just like Trump, just like all these politicians, just like all these influencers. He's an influencer. And again, I don't claim to know exactly why he hates the Jews. Another thing he's doing is just totally distorting. So here's the thing. I've grown up around a lot of Jews, and I've gotten to know a lot of Jews very well. Most of the Jews I know don't know really are. I'm probably more knowledgeable about the religion than they are. So they're not. Most Jews are not religious, and especially in this country, they're very. It's almost like they know as much about Judaism as most people that grew up in a Christian church know about Christianity. Most people just know about Christmas and Easter and don't really go to church much, and it's not a big part of their life. But whatever. When the holidays come around, they get a Christmas tree just to have fun, or they go on an Easter egg hunt. It just is fun, but they're not biblical scholars. They're not educated about church history and things like that. So like this idea that that the Jews operate under these nefarious doctrines that are inside of the Talmud is just it's a dirty, lying, hateful type of rhetoric that's meant to foment hatred against Jews, is to foment distrust, and somehow again that they're somehow duplicitous and somehow not to be trusted, and they have certain rules for how to operate with Jews and certain rules for how to operate with Gentiles. From what I understand, the Talmud is a very difficult book to understand. It's a book that needs to be studied extensively. So most Jews don't even know what the Talmud says, and the ones that do, most of what is bastardized to the public to try to foment anti-Semitism has been done many times over. Hitler did it. The Protocols of the Elders of Zion did it. International Jewry by Henry Ford. I mean, that's what Dan is. Dan is an anti-Semite. Dan hates Jews. Why? I don't know. We can speculate a theory, but what's disgusting to me is just, and again, I don't think that Dan's not an educated guy. I mean, he has money. Who cares? Having money doesn't mean that you're wealthy, or that you're having wealth doesn't mean that you have a lot of knowledge. It doesn't mean you're educated. It doesn't. All it means is that you have a lot of money. There's no other real there's no direct correlation between level of education and level of money. I mean, okay, if you're good at business, that's great. Does it take a certain level of intelligence? 100%. But that doesn't mean that because you have a lot of money, that the credibility of what you say is high on every single level. I mean, I don't think that Dan Bilzerian is someone to be taken seriously when it comes to foreign policy. The guy's a poker player. The guy is a womanizer, and that's fine. I'm not insulting the guy. I think he lives a pretty awesome lifestyle. I think he's a pretty interesting guy, but to take to look at him as though he's an authority on global affairs, and then his reasoning of why he feels the way he does is very shaky at best. It's not grounded in a good, concrete understanding of the facts. And the fact is, though, that because he speaks with conviction, and because he speaks with certainty, and because he comes off like he's a big, strong man, most people who are extremely stupid are going to just run with it because it's easily digestible, it has the shock value, and it's entertaining. And I would just really encourage everybody, really learn how to think better. Learn how to learn. Don't just take someone's word for it, that because it's shocking and it's entertaining and it's easily digestible that you should just run with it. That's all I got to say. Bye.